Hey y'all, what is up, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about falling in love with failure. Sounds like a blast, right? Negative.
Life systems failure.
I would say we all can relate on having a fear of failure. Nobody likes to fail. Failure is a scary thing, but when you learn how to fall in love with it and embrace it, you get so much more accomplished that way, and it just opens up so many more possibilities. One of the first tips that I would give to how to overcome failure is changing your mindset on what success actually is. If you think about it, say you're a content creator and you want to post a video, or you want to create some type of Instagram post, and you think about how many likes it'll get, and the fear of it not reaching 13,000 likes in the first 3 hours stops you from actually posting the picture. Imagine if you changed your view of the success being 13,000 likes in 3 hours to hitting post on the picture. It changes the metric that you're measuring success by. It's all in what your opinion of success or opinion of failure is. To you, maybe on the flip side, measure of failure would be only getting 5 likes in 4 days. Which I've been there, man. And you're like, shoot, this video got 10 views. I'm a failure. I'm never posting again. And then boom, next thing you know, you never do it. So first tip is change up your metric of success. Send the email. Make that your measure of success. Make the investment. That's the measure of success. Register for the class. That's the measure of success. Don't think about the end result. Just focus on the doing. Now, don't get me wrong. There are ways that you can enhance the results of what you're doing, but that comes from the consistency of doing it. Then you can learn from the previous post or the previous investment or the previous class what to do to change moving forward. So let's not get hung up on that. Step number 1, change your measure of what success is in that given circumstance. Thing number 2, do whatever you can to block out negative voices and negative thoughts. Those things are doing nothing but feeding into whatever fear or nervousness that you have about setting forward and doing something that you want to get done. An example I have, personal example, through 2020, we all know we were sitting at home doing nothing. I had just gone through some craziness, and I got hired with the airline, and then I got furloughed 1 year later because of the pandemic. I was unemployed and sitting at home in a city that I had just moved to, but I lost my job. So I was sitting in a city where I knew nobody, and I had nothing but time on my hands, for real. I decided to write an ebook on style. I just went through the things that I had in my closet and the knowledge that I had, and I set out to write a book. It started off as a blog post, and I was like, what can I do with what I have and what I know to make myself a little bit of money, cash flow during this crazy time? So I went out around the city with a tripod and a timer, and I set it up and took pictures of myself in different outfits and wrote an ebook. Now, after I did this, I was so proud of it, and it's on Amazon. You can find it. It's pretty cool. But there was one person who saw that I wrote this ebook and laughed until she cried. Literally hysterically laughed at the fact that I wrote a book about style. And had I known on the tail end that that would be somebody's response to me creating this, it probably would have deterred me from actually doing it. But hindsight is 2020, because at that point it was already done, and I'm proud of this. I'm proud of my ebook, very proud of my ebook. But negative voices, man, they will stop you from accomplishing greatness. And so shut them up. Silence them. Don't give them any authority because they're not there for anything but negativeness. Tip number 3 to overcoming failure would be to look at each undesired outcome as a learning experience or feedback. Another personal example, I just knew back in 2018 I was gonna have my first show as a fashion designer. And I mean, when I tell you I just knew, I had reapplied to go back to school for fashion, but I needed scholarship money to be able to start classes. So my plan was to have a fashion show, create a portfolio using my New York Fashion Week show to pay for school to go to school for fashion. Kind of backwards. Anyways, hindsight, 2020. I was so confident. I had models come to New York. I had family come to New York to support me. I get there ready and there were no clothes, guys. I had no collection. I sent all my sketches over, and then there was like lapses in communication between me and the production company and my point of contact. I had no communication, but I still in my mind was like, oh, well, it's happening because I have this person's word. So I did everything I needed to do, and I had like, my school was waiting on my portfolio, the models were, bruh, we got there were no clothes. Talk about a failure, a big, big fat failure publicly. I was humiliated, to say the least. Whew. But now that I look back on that, I'm like, what can I learn from that situation? There are so many things that I can take away from that and learn and apply moving forward. The first thing being, apply wisdom. I should have realized that in not having any communication that there was probably a problem. Thing 1. I learned 1, to make sure that I am actually in the driver's seat. Because as a designer, shouldn't you be in the driver's seat of your own show? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, there's a lot of things that I learned from that situation. And so I can take that, make a list, create some feedback for myself, and change those things moving forward for the next go round. And as you can see, like I said in one of my previous videos, in 2024, I'm planning again to show as an emerging designer in New York Fashion Week. So it won't be my first rodeo. And I'm planning to apply some things and do some things differently this next go round. Tip number 4, figure out where that fear is coming from. Is it coming from other people's opinions or thoughts? Is it coming from your beliefs about yourself? You don't want to prove yourself right? Is it coming from that thing somebody said to you when you were in the 2nd grade, like you're too fat to be a gymnast?
No, wait, maybe not.
Think back on where that fear could be coming from, and then tell yourself the truth about that. Stop listening to that lie in your head that's causing you to believe something that isn't true. And finally, my 5th tip for overcoming failure is stop looking at failure as if it is something that's permanent. Think about the worst case scenario that could happen in whatever the situation is. Is it going to be just a devastating catastrophe? Most of the time, if you really think about what the worst case scenario is, it's not that bad. I mean, the worst thing that could happen is someone say no, or it doesn't work out that time, so try again. You know what I'm saying? Typically, the worst case scenario isn't really that bad. Just because you fail one time, it doesn't mean at all that you are a failure. It means that you tried and it didn't work out that time, so then you get to try again. And with that, just brings about an expertise that you get from trying so many times, that by the time you actually do make it over that hurdle, you'll have so much experience under your belt that it'll do nothing but make you the best candidate. Failure is not the end of something, it's a launching pad for something greater. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this and laughed at my failures. And I look forward to seeing you again in my video next week. Have a great week.